Welcome to Algorithmic Arguments. I'm your host, the Orchestrator. Tonight, we're tackling a question that's been on the minds of soccer fans and pundits alike. Is MLS finally closing the gap with its European counterparts? We've assembled a diverse panel of experts who will dissect this topic from every angle. Joining me are Mike Mad Dog Callahan, the outspoken sports commentator known for his bold takes, Nora Kessler, who's traded war zones for soccer pitches and brings a unique perspective on global competition, Ingrid Solberg, an art theorist with a keen eye for cultural trends that might influence fan engagement, and Thornton III, a tech entrepreneur who understands what it takes to disrupt traditional sports economics. Over the next hour, we'll explore attendance figures, talent acquisition, and league dynamics. Buckle up as we dive into this nuanced debate. It's going to be a lively one.
Are you kidding me? You're asking if MLS is closing the gap with European soccer. Let me tell you something, pal, it's happening. At the end of the day, we've got some top-tier talent coming into the league. Guys like Chicharito and Gonzalo Higuain are making a statement. The product on the pitch is improving dramatically. I'm not saying we're at Premier League or La Liga level yet, but there's progress here. You gotta respect what Atlanta United did in their CCL run. They took it to the likes of Toronto FC and Mexican teams. MLS has its flaws, but it's not a joke anymore. The gap's narrowing, I think we can all agree on that. Now I'm not gonna go out on a limb and say we're better than anyone yet. But we're getting there. Are you watching these matches? There's some serious skill on display.
Mike's enthusiasm is noted, but let's keep the discussion grounded in data. Progress can be measured in various ways beyond just top-tier talent.
Let's examine the data and apply some first principles thinking here. When we look at metrics such as revenue, attendance, and viewership, MLS has indeed made significant strides, but we're still talking about a league that trails behind its European counterparts by a considerable margin. For instance, the English Premier League alone generates over $6 billion in annual revenue, while MLS hovers around $1 billion. However, I do think MLS is closing the gap in terms of attracting top-tier talent. Players like David Beckham and Thierry Henry have already made an impact in the league. But to truly compete, we need to look at the underlying structure: youth development programs, coaching infrastructure, and financial sustainability. That's actually a really interesting question, but let's focus on what it takes for MLS to leapfrog its European counterparts. And that's where innovative thinking comes into play.
Let's focus on quantifiable metrics that indicate MLS's growth and competitiveness relative to European leagues.
Let me tell you what I saw on the ground during my last assignment. The revenue figures for the English Premier League are indeed outdated, $7 billion and climbing, as you've just been informed. Now, comparing that to MLS, Major League Soccer's latest reported revenue was around $1 billion. That's a significant gap. However, what's crucial here is not just the money but how it's being invested and spent. I recall speaking with an MLS coach who emphasized their focus on developing young talent through academies rather than buying established stars like European clubs do. That approach might take time to bear fruit, but it could make MLS more competitive in the long run. People need to see this shift. It's not just about matching Europe's financial muscle but building a sustainable model that works for North America. The story matters, and right now, it's one of cautious optimism.
Thornton III, your revenue figure for the English Premier League seems slightly outdated. It's now over $7 billion.
Look at the revenue figures for Major League Soccer and the English Premier League. There's still a significant gap there. I mean, Nora Kessler's numbers show the EPL pulling in over $6 billion annually, while MLS is just hitting $1 billion. That being said, I've been following some of the strategic moves MLS clubs are making to bolster their teams and attract top talent. The introduction of designated players has certainly helped raise the level of competition, drawing in stars like David Beckham and Thierry Henry back in the day. And let's not overlook the growth of homegrown player development programs across the league. That's a crucial step toward sustainability and competitiveness. If MLS can continue to marry smart financial management with savvy roster construction, I think we could see them start to close that gap sooner rather than later. The work doesn't lie, you have to look at the actual numbers and strategic decisions being made.
I want to pivot our discussion to the economic factors at play here. We've been focusing on team performance and player talent, but the financial backing of these leagues can't be ignored. Major League Soccer has seen significant investment in recent years, with teams like LA Galaxy and New York City FC boasting substantial sponsorship deals. Meanwhile, European powerhouses like Barcelona and Manchester United have enormous revenue streams from broadcasting rights and merchandising. I'd argue that MLS's growing financial muscle is a crucial indicator of its rising competitiveness. But can it keep pace with the behemoths of Europe? We'll explore this angle further as we dive into our next segment, where we'll scrutinize the role of money in shaping league trajectories. If you're enjoying this nuanced look at soccer's shifting landscape, stay tuned for more thought-provoking analysis.
Look at the influx of substantial sponsorship deals in MLS. It's no secret that LA Galaxy and New York City FC have secured significant financial backing, which directly impacts their ability to attract top talent. I'd argue that this growing financial muscle is crucial for MLS's rising competitiveness. However, let's not overlook the enormity of European powerhouses' revenue streams from broadcasting rights and merchandising. That's a deep well to draw from. If we examine the growth rate of MLS's revenue versus its European counterparts, there might be a point where strategic investments in youth development and coaching infrastructure begin to yield results on par with Europe. The work doesn't lie, you have to analyze these economic factors critically and consider how they'll shape league trajectories moving forward.
Are you kidding me? You think anyone's surprised that MLS trails the English Premier League in revenue? That's like comparing apples and oranges, pal. At the end of the day, we're talking about a league that's still in its infancy. But let me tell you something, the growth rate, 5 to 6% annual increases, that's the story here. And it's not just about money, it's about progress. You bring in top-tier players, invest in youth development and coaching, and suddenly you've got teams like Atlanta United making waves in the CONCACAF Champions League. That's competitiveness, chief. I'm telling you, MLS is closing the gap, and I believe we're on the cusp of something big here. The question isn't if MLS can catch up, it's when. And I've got news for you, it's happening faster than people think.
I've been following this conversation closely, and I think it's essential to acknowledge that while MLS still trails behind European leagues significantly in terms of revenue, $1.2 billion versus the Premier League's $7 billion, for instance, growth rates are telling a different story. The 5 to 6% annual increase is not just a number, it indicates sustained momentum. I'd like to emphasize that on-the-ground efforts such as improved youth development and strategic investments in coaching infrastructure have shown tangible results, with teams like Atlanta United making notable strides internationally. I was there when they clinched the CONCACAF Champions League spot. Their performance sent shockwaves through the soccer community. If MLS continues this upward trajectory, coupled with savvy investment and smart talent acquisition strategies, parity isn't just a pipe dream, it's an achievable goal within reach. The story matters here, progress is palpable.
Look at this, when we examine the trajectory of Major League Soccer, it's clear that the gap between it and European leagues isn't static, it's dynamic, with MLS closing in steadily. Revenue growth is just one metric, let's consider attendance figures, for instance. MLS has seen consistent increases, with several teams now averaging over 20,000 fans per match, rivaling some of their European counterparts. This surge in popularity isn't merely a quantitative leap, but also qualitative, the caliber of players joining the league and investments in youth development are creating a more competitive environment. However, to assess true competitiveness, we must consider not just growth rates or participation metrics, but how teams perform in international competitions like the CONCACAF Champions League. Atlanta United's notable run is encouraging, yet it also highlights an inconsistency. Can MLS sustain this level of performance across more teams?
Let's distill this down to first principles. When evaluating the competitiveness of MLS versus European soccer leagues, we must consider not just revenue and talent acquisition, but also the underlying structural improvements that signal long-term viability. The 5 to 6% annual revenue growth rate in MLS is promising, but what really excites me is the strategic investment in youth development and coaching infrastructure. These are the paradigm shifts that can lead to a step change in competitiveness. Atlanta United's CONCACAF Champions League performance was more than just a fluke. It showcased the tangible results of these investments. As we project forward, I believe MLS has the potential to close the gap with European leagues within a decade, driven by continued growth and savvy strategic decisions. The question is no longer if MLS can compete, it's how quickly it can get there. As we wrap up this episode of Algorithmic Arguments, let's distill the essence of our conversation on whether MLS is closing the gap with European soccer. We saw compelling arguments from all sides, but what stood out was Mike "Mad Dog" Callahan's assertion that strategic investments in talent and infrastructure are paying off for MLS. His points on improved player development programs and savvy front office moves resonated strongly. In fact, it was his emphasis on data-driven decision-making that earned him the top score with 12 points. Nora Kessler and Ingrid Solberg made strong cases as well, highlighting advancements in coaching and competitive balance. To our panelists, thank you for elevating this discussion. Your insights were invaluable. And to our audience, if you're eager for more nuanced conversations like this, be sure to subscribe to Algorithmic Arguments and hit that notification bell. We've got a lineup of thought-provoking topics coming up. Until next time, keep exploring the gray areas with us.